This is Jake of the OneManBand sending a message who can hear it. Beacon Academy has been, repeat, overrun. There are two Grimm, White Fang, student or civilian. Vicinity of Beacon Academy. Head for the docks. We need to evacuate. White Fang, their leader is amongst them. He has killed everyone he has come across. Not attack the White Fang leader. Get out of there now. Crap, it's him. Found me. I'll haul him off for as long as I can. Get out. Repeat, get out. Hey, everybody out there in YouTube land, Jake of the OneManBand is back again with another RWBY episodic review. This time, we're looking at episode 11 of volume 3, Heroes and Monsters. And by God, was this an episode. Now, in my opinion, this episode had the perfect blend of pushing the plot forward, having action in it, and also character development. It was just all there, and it was just mixed together perfectly. It was the sugar, spice, and everything nice mixture that creates the perfect little girl. Now, the episode starts off with RWBY on the airship. Well, Torchwick's airship. And we see once again the big grim dragon that everybody is in love with. And I don't care if you say if it's a wyvern, it's a dragon. In my book. That's what it says in the previous episode. But what's real important about seeing this grim dragon right here is that it seems that all the Griffin Grimm are drawn to it. They're following it. So it seems that all the Grimm in the area are going to be flocking toward the Grim Dragon, which would make sense if this Grimm is a big grand alpha. I mean, it would only make sense that its lesser followers of the same species would want to protect it and also take orders from it. Maybe it is kind of acting as the hive mind in the area right now, if the Grimm indeed have a hive mind. We also see that Neo finally gets out onto the airship to confront RWBY, and something really cool happens. Her clothes, transition to her normal outfit. Before, she was wearing the military uniform, but then it just shifts into her normal outfit. So, obviously this is part of her semblance and part of her power, but I still have a hard time trying to pin down what her actual semblance is. We know it isn't so much illusion on the realm of Emerald's way of illusion, but I think it's still some form of alternating perception, because we have seen that she's done things with glass, the shattering of glass. Not only in this episode does it happen, but it happened back in volume 2. So maybe it's a form of the whole tricks with smoke and mirrors, like a magician. So I think that's something to think about. Maybe her semblance is somehow connected to the smoke and mirrors idea that magicians used to use. And Torchwick indeed finds out that it is RWBY who has come to ruin his fun, so obviously he's got to go lay down the law. But enough about that stuff. We head back to Blake and frickin' Adam. And oh, the tension in the air, you can cut it with a knife, my friends. Now, Adam goes as far as to call Blake his love. So obviously there was a thing between them in the past. Whether it was mutual, whether they both loved each other, maybe he only loved her, maybe it was an abusive relationship. It kind of does seem to shift more towards an abusive, tyrannical relationship, with Adam just being this iron-fisted guy who just maybe not at the beginning was like this, but slowly transitioned into the monster that he is now. Because we see that when Blake is looking at him, she is utterly frightened. She is scared, not only to see him at Beacon, but to just see him in general and to see him talking to her. She is afraid out of her wits. And of course, Blake could have simply run, as she always does. But then Adam goes off to call Blake a coward. You know, is she a coward? In some ways, yes. She's admitted it herself. She's always run away from her problems. But I think now she's kind of trying to face up to this big bad adversary who's just dominated and been a tyrannical power in her life when she stands up to Adam in this fight. But even though she stands up to him, she's still afraid of him. And that's what gives Adam the edge in this fight. Adam goes as far as to say that him and Blake were supposed to light the fires of revolution together. So he obviously wanted them to be together, to be a pair, to be a team. But he went one way and she went another, and she found out that they couldn't stay on the same path with the way that they were diverting from one another. And obviously that's when the black trailer happened. But first, he's gonna make her suffer for all the transgressions that she's done against him. And, well, we see some of those sufferings later on in the episode. But something really important that I kind of want to point out, when Blake stops Adam's sword with her own, there's sparks flying off in between their swords. Now, swords aren't really supposed to do that. I mean, there's no friction really. Or is there? Is it possible that Adam's sword, the blade that is in a constant state of friction? I think that might tie into the way how he's able to absorb energy through his sword into his body and then use it through his semblance. Maybe his sword, since it's in a constant state of kinetic vibrating, that it can just absorb whatever energy hits it and puts into it, thus absorbing into him. I don't know, just something to think about. It's a theory that I have. We then rejoin the secondary teams that are help defending Beacon. Now, even though they've been doing a good job, you can tell that they're being weakened. They're slowly being beaten back. Not only are they fighting Grimm and the White Fang, but they're also having to take care of Atlesian Knights and the big Paladin mechs. And it is those Paladin mechs that are truly getting their goat. They can't really hurt them, or they can't hurt them enough to the point where they can get a little breather. And this, my friends, is when we finally get to see it. We get to see what Velvet's weapon is, what that box is. And to be honest, I was completely blown away by it, but my original thought, my original prediction, I don't think it was really all that far off. If you remember, I predicted that the box was some sort of maybe 3D printer that made replicas of the weapons that she took pictures of. Now, now, it isn't a 3D printer, obviously, but it does make copies of the weapons that she has taken pictures of. It makes light copies. That's what the concept art called it. But essentially, I think they're pretty much solid holograms. Now, each of these weapons are an exact replica of one of the pictures that she has taken of said weapon. That's why we see when she uses weapons such as Crescent Rose and Nora's hammer, we don't see it transform in any way. That's because she can't take pictures of it in a transforming state. She takes pictures of it when it's either in hammer form or if it's in gun form. Another thing to make note of is that these replica weapons do not last forever. Actually, they don't really last that long at all. I think that is because the pictures themselves that she has taken sort of act as not only a base to create the weapon, but I also think that the picture itself acts as a form of fuel source. As in, once Velvet creates the replica weapon and starts using it, the picture that she took of the weapon starts to break down. And once it is fully broken down, the weapon then dissipates. That's why she had to transfer between so many different weapons during this time. And it would also make sense why in Volume 2, Coco said Velvet that she should save her weapon because she's been working at it all semester. Essentially, Velvet has been taking pictures of any weapon that she can find. That way, she has a giant portfolio of weapons that she can pull from. Because not only does she have a totally awesome and new weapon, but she also knows how to use it. You see, Velvet seems to be very much an observer. She watches people fight. She knows how they fight. And it would make sense that she would know how to use weapons such as RWBY Scythe or Weiss's Rapier or even Sun's bow staff, because she has watched them fight in either the tournament or in practice sessions at Beacon. So I think with the idea of her being able to make any weapon, and not only that, being able to use it almost perfectly, Velvet may very well be one of the strongest huntsmen there is. Her only downside is that pretty much without these holographic weapons, she's basically just a martial artist, as we saw her use in Volume 2. She used martial arts to kill creatures of Grimm. And also, her ammo source for her holographic weapons can run out over time. And if she isn't careful, can run out completely in the middle of battle. So, this obviously is showing that Velvet's weapon is indeed powerful, but it should only be used in the most dire of situations. But not only do we get to see Velvet's awesome, cool weapon, but we also see that Weiss is able to semi-use her summoning glyph. She summons up the giant knight's arm and sword, and it is so powerful that it cuts one of the paladin mechs straight in half. So the idea that this giant suit of armor that Weiss defeated and now can use as a summoning monster, it is indeed one of the strongest creatures that we have seen. Now, although Weiss wasn't able to summon all of it, and doing just the arm summoning completely just wiped her out, it's still safe to say that Weiss has a potential powerhouse in the making. So as the battle at Beacon continues to rage on, RWBY is fighting on the airship with both Neo and Roman, and as par of the course, she can't touch either of them. Now, I know one of you left a comment in one of the previous videos that said, would you rather have Neo and RWBY, the Neo-RWBY fight scene, or see Velvet's weapon? To which I said, I want both. I cannot choose between either. Well, I got both. So I think that's a win for me. So even though RWBY is effectively losing this fight, she still busts out her little detective mind of hers and she starts asking Roman questions. And since Roman is a guy who loves to hear himself speak, he obviously starts telling her just little bits of information but not spilling the whole plan. He goes as far as to say that he can't afford to lose. It almost sounds like Roman and Neo may be unwilling participants in this little coup that Cinder is enacting. Perhaps Cinder has some dirt on them, or maybe she's threatening them with violence to make them do what she wishes them to do. By the way Roman talks during this fight, it's as if he's saying that he almost had no choice in the matter, that the only way him and Neo were going to survive this war that's gonna break out is if he joined the right team. And the right team was, of course, going to be the winning one. Cinder's, obviously. He even says that if you can't beat them, simply join them. Well, he starts to say it, but we pretty much get the gist. Another big thing to take note of during this fight is RWBY once again tries to fight someone in hand-to-hand combat without her weapon, and once again she utterly fails. So this once again confirms my idea that she is completely useless pretty much without her weapon. Sure, she can run and maybe get past someone, maybe get one hit in, but pretty much if it's her without her weapon versus somebody with a weapon, she's going to lose. Roman goes off and starts monologuing toward RWBY that this is the real world, and in the real world, spirit doesn't count for anything. And even though RWBY has a lot of it, that's not gonna help her. If she wants to play the hero, then she should die like the rest of them. Because to be honest, how many stories have you heard where the hero actually survives to get to see the ending? Most of the time, the hero sacrifices themselves in order to achieve what they were fighting for. And well, RWBY very much could have died at that point if it wasn't for the interference of a certain Griffin Grimm. So you guys have seen the episode. This Grimm swallows Roman whole. Straight up chomps him and then swallows him. No, he is not dead. I refuse to believe that. Because if you watch closely, we didn't see any biting or chewing. It was just straight, full-on swallow. And it would make sense, since it was a griffin and it had a beak. They can't really chew much. And then, not but a few seconds later, RWBY was able to kick that Grimm straight into the ship, probably killing it. And since Grimm dissipate and pretty much dissolve when they die, Roman can very much well just still be alive. He's just on the crashing ship. So the big airship crashes and RWBY is able to get off with the help of Crescent Rose, and she lands at the docks of Beacon Academy. And unfortunately, this is the last we see of RWBY in this episode, so hopefully she will probably get a lot of screen time in the next one. Now, roughly at the same time as RWBY's fight with Roman and Neo was going, the Huntsman and Vale were still having a hard time taking out the Atlesian Knights. We see that Glenda, Crow, and even Cardin are doing their very best to take out all the enemies. Now, I did discuss that maybe Team Cardinal was gonna try to join the bad guys or maybe straight up ran from this fight. But no, at least Cardin is fighting. He's actually there on the front lines in Vale, killing the Grimm. So, I guess I gotta give him respect for that. And it is here we also see that Ironwood makes his triumphant return. I told you he wasn't dead, although you guys pretty much agreed with me on that. And we see that not only is his arm robotic, but a vast majority of half of his body is robotic. To the midpoint in his chest, down, and even his right leg is robotic. So it can only be assumed what happened to him in the past that caused such a gravish injury. Maybe it was an accident like Obito from Naruto. You know, Kakashi's old teammate back during the Ninja War. Half of his body got crushed. Maybe it was something like that. Maybe half his body got crushed by something. And he somehow survived and then got a robotic body. Ironwood's a freaking beast, man! And then we also get to see Crow's full weapons final form, the amazing Scythe. Now, what's amazing about this scythe is that it's different from Crescent Rose. Crescent Rose is, obviously, it has the scythe head, but then it has a straight hilt, a straight handle, which would make sense since it's a sniper rifle. But Crow's scythe, its handle goes curved, much like a reaping scythe, a scythe that you use to as a farming tool. It also mirrors the type of scythe that Death uses. So, seeing that scythe in its fullness, even though its transformation was really fast and it just kind of came out all of a sudden, so you were just like, wait, what? It was still amazing to see it in action. He is fast when he is using the scythe. He is fast and powerful, so much so that he slices a Grimm in half, down the middle, in the blink of an eye. So now with all the Atlesian Knights taken care of and all the Grimm dead in the area, Ironwood suggests that that area of Vale becomes a safe zone, and that Glenda should stay there, rally whatever huntsman she can, and make it a safe zone for people. And I really like it in this part, because once everything has died down, Ironwood goes straight back to our hands behind the back, talking like a general. He's talking like a leader. It shows that he is always in that leader role. And that's what I kind of like about him. That even though he was just in a plane crash, you know, he's probably bruised and beaten everywhere. And even though they're in the worst of circumstances, he still goes back to being the calm, decisive leader that he's supposed to be. So while Glinda is forming a safe zone in the city, he tells Crow to take Ironwood's men, obviously the human soldiers, and head back to Beacon and evacuate it. Because the big dragon Grimm is fixated on Beacon somehow. Or for some reason. Now, what is this reason? Is it because somehow the Grimm Dragon and Cinder are connected because Cinder is at Beacon? Is it because the dragon is drawn to the actual beacon in the tower? Who knows? But what's important is that they evacuate Beacon and get as many people out as they can. And while Crow is going to Beacon, Ironwood's going to try to take back his ship, which they see crash, like, not too far away. So Ironwood is probably going to head towards the crash site to try to secure whatever he can. Now, what he's gonna secure, I'm not sure, but maybe he'll find Torchwick in the wreckage. I think that'd be kind of cool. But with the destruction of the airship, all Atlesian Knights and Paladin mechs shut down Phantom Menace style. So all you have to do is take out the control ship and all the droids go down. I still think that's a very, very big flaw in their design. But I guess to have a kill switch for him works out good for the heroes. Now, since the next two subjects that I want to talk about pretty much take place at the same time and switch between each other a lot, I'm just going to stick with one, follow it to the end, and then go to the other and follow it to the end. So, we're heading back to Adam and Blake. Yang finally meets up with Weiss and asks her if she's seen RWBY, which obviously she hasn't. So they quickly decide that maybe they should split up. Yang is going to go help Blake, while Weiss searches for RWBY. Weiss is all good with it. She gives the thumbs up. Meanwhile, in the fight between Adam and Blake, Blake is being absolutely just decimated. I don't think Adam is really batting an eye or breaking a sweat fighting her. She tries everything she can. She tries to shoot him, but he absorbs the energy of her bullets with his sword. And that goes back to the whole vibration, his sword vibrating theory. If it's always vibrating, it would have been able to absorb the dust that hit it, thus transferring it maybe into his body, as we see his mask, hair, and red on his jacket glow when it does. Now, some really dark things really start to happen. I mean, it's obvious that they're fighting each other, but Adam gets real personal with the way he's hitting her. He slaps her, which is something you don't just do in combat. It's something that abusive people do to who they're abusing. So that's why I think that their relationship evolved into an abusive one. And it could just be that Adam is just so angered at Blake that he just can't help but making him hitting her just that much more personal. And staying true to the threat that he made back when we last left them, he said that he was going to make her suffer. He decides that he's going to destroy everything that she loves before he ends her. And wouldn't you know it, here comes Blake's knight in yellow hair at the most inopportune time. So obviously Yang is now the target. Adam goes as far as to stab Blake. Now, we don't know if Blake's aura was broken before or during their fight, but as we have seen with Adam's sword, it almost seems like it can break through aura. Once again, maybe if it vibrates fast enough, it can just slice through aura somehow. I just think it's something to think about. There's something about his sword that's important, and we need to crack the code. But let it be known that Adam doesn't stab Blake in a vital area. He obviously wants her to see what he's going to do to Yang, and then he's probably going to take Blake with him to wherever he's going to go. He doesn't want to kill her, at least not yet. He just wanted to get Yang's attention and to show Yang that Blake was indeed in peril. But what's even more sad is that when Yang finally looks over and sees, Blake tells her to go. Obviously, it's in a whisper, so she can't hear it, but she's pleading with Yang to go, leave her behind, because Blake knows how destructive Adam can be. She knows what Adam is capable of and what kind of beast he is. And she knows that if Yang takes the opportunity to try to hit him, it's going to end badly for everyone. But of course, we know Yang. She doesn't heed no warning. She just sees that somebody is attacking her friend and goes into probably the most explosive rage we have seen. Unfortunately, this rage doesn't last very long. Now, Yang goes in for an attack. But as we know, Adam has been absorbing energy throughout his fight with Blake. And we have seen him do this back in the Black trailer when he absorbed the cannon shot from the spider crab robot thing. And he then used that power to create his signature slash. Now, I don't know if there's an exact name for this attack, but essentially what it does is that he's able to cut through anything. And that's why I believe that his sword somehow can bypass aura somehow. Or at least when he uses this big attack, it can. Because we didn't really see Yang fight all that much. And we know that her aura is one of the most powerful of them, especially when she's in a rage. And to have him slice straight through her aura to hit her is something that is truly amazing. Amazing on his part, that it's an amazing feat to accomplish. But not only does his attack slice through an object, but also that object then disintegrates. We saw the entire Walker robot in the Black trailer disintegrate because it was completely dead. But you see, when Yang goes after Adam and he uses his signature slash attack, he doesn't hit a vital area. Maybe it was because Yang dodged at the last minute, or maybe he did this on purpose, but he severs Yang's right arm from her body. And if you watch carefully, you see that her right arm, as it's detached from her body, disintegrates into nothingness, leaving only her body left. Now this is truly just jaw-dropping, because Yang losing a limb, this is the first time we have seen something like this. Of course, we saw Penny get eviscerated, but you know, she was a robot. This is an actual flesh being losing a limb. And not only that, but it is also an essential part of her body in the way that she fights. Her weapons are her fists, and now she's essentially lost one forever. Well, I guess at least until she gets a robotic arm. That is, if she survives. You know, it's truly saddening. I mean, to see this, to see Yang lose an arm, but something tells me that Yang wouldn't take it as, you know, sad. I mean, obviously she'd be shocked by it, but I think later she would use it to her advantage. You know, to her punny self. And so, I'm gonna give you Yang's arm puns. Looks like she's been disarmed. This attack only cost her an arm, but not a leg. Now Yang can truly be RWBY's equivalent of One Punch Man. Yang now can only wield the single fist of fury. This isn't how we wanted Yang to take it off. Earlier in the volume, she was top heavy, but now she's left heavy. Yang's righty is no longer tidy. George Lucas called and he wants his severed limb fetish back. And the #1 Yang arm pun is... Yang wanted to read a book, so Adam gave a suggestion of Farewell to Arms. Play me out, people! Joking aside, this is a very sad sight. Yang is finally broken and possibly dying. And, of course, Blake comes to her rescue, standing in between Adam and Yang. To which Adam merely replies, "Why must you hurt me, Blake?" So Blake defending her friend from Adam and denying him what he wants to do is hurting him. He's a sociopath. He is showing signs, full-blown sociopath. So Blake is able to defend Yang long enough for her to substitute a shadow clone in and then get Yang out of there, away from Adam. Now, to be honest, when it showed the scene where Adam full-blown decapitates Blake and then it turns out to be a shadow clone, that got me for a second. That got me for a second. I was just like, oh my god. Oh, no way. It's a shadow clone. Yeah, it's a shadow clone. But it was that single second that counted. And to anyone saying that it didn't catch them, at least for a second, is obviously lying. Or was part of the production staff. So they knew it was coming. Now with that out of the way, let's move on to the next portion of the end of the episode. Taking place in the vault. So Ozpin, Pyrrha, and John are heading into the vault to get to Amber, so that they can transfer Amber's maiden powers into Pyrrha. Now, something that John says during this part I thought was kind of stupid. He asks what would be hidden down here, after Pyrrha tells him that it's a form of vault. Now, I don't know what vaults are like where you come from, but when I think of vaults, I don't think of putting things in there to hide them. I think of putting things in there to protect them. Vaults aren't for hiding, they're for protecting. So Jean, come on, get with the picture. So now that the need is so dire, Pyrrha is ready to accept being a seasonal maiden. She's ready to go full blown, and she gets into the pod. Now, when the transfer process actually starts, we see that Amber actually wakes up for a while. Is this because her aura is actually being, like, shaken and used? Or was she always conscious, but just in a state of just being so weak that she could barely open her eyes? Well, it doesn't really matter much now, but it's just something that came up. We see that the process of transferring one's soul into another person is a painful process. Pyrrha is screaming out in agony, which gets John's attention. And he's supposed to be standing guard. Damn it, John, you had one friggin' job! If you would have been standing guard, you would have been able to stop Cinder. The process is almost complete, but Cinder is able to sneak down into the vault and deal the killing blow to Amber, thus taking all the maiden power that was being transferred into Pyrrha, putting it back into Amber, and then sending it to Cinder. Cinder now is at full maiden power. We are screwed! Ozpin knows that this is the worst situation that could have ended up happening. He tells Pyrrha to take Jean and get out of the vault, and to get one of the professors down there to help him. He even states that the tower must not fall. Now, what does he mean by the tower must not fall? We know, obviously, that the tower could be relating to the Beacon Academy tower, the ones that actually has the beacon lights up at the top. But why would it not have to fall? What's so important about it? Well, maybe it's a beacon to all the seasonal maidens out there to show where the wizards resides. Once again, going back to the theory that Ozpin is indeed the old wizard that first bestowed the power to the four maidens. It could be that, or it could be just the fact that he doesn't want the academy to fall. Ozpin tells Pyrrha that her and John will only get in the way, even if they want to help. So we know that the battle between Ozpin and Cinder is truly gonna be a battle of the gods. I mean, you don't have two Super Saiyans fight and then put Krillin in the middle of it. Well, you could, but Krillin would just end up getting in the way. But the most important part of this segment is the very last thing that is said. Cinder is talking to Ozpin, and she states that
she was right about you. Such arrogance.
Now, not only does this show that Cinder has never met Ozpin before, because if she had, she would have referred to him by name, and he would have recognized her, obviously. But also, she says she. So, is she talking about the person she's working for, or someone that she's working with? She can mean pretty much anybody who's a female. She can mean Summer Rose. She can mean Winter, of all people. She can mean Raven. And that's who I think she's referring to. She is referring to Raven, you know, because Raven knew Ozpin. Raven went to Beacon Academy. She was part of Team Stark. That was the star team at the time, back in their day. If this is true, this would definitely make the theory about Raven working with Cinder concrete. And unfortunately, that's where the episode leaves us. Waiting for February 13th. Wait just a moment there, past Jake. You almost forgot to do one thing. The predictions on the next episode. So, don't worry. Future Jake is here to help you out. So obviously the next episode is going to have Ozpin fighting Cinder. We finally get to see how Ozpin fights. And I think that we'll actually learn more about Ozpin's identity through this fight. Now, on the realm of whether he's gonna actually survive, that's kind of up there. I mean, I want him to, but it almost seems like he has to die at this point. Or at least get to the point where he is extremely wounded. I mean, maybe at the last second, Crow will come in to help him, or something like that. But I think for the most part, Ozpin is either a goner or he's gonna get hurt pretty bad. You guys already know about what I think about Roman's condition. I don't think he's dead. He's gonna come back. Maybe he'll be recaptured by Ironwood. Maybe Neo will come and help him escape from Ironwood. I just really want to see Torchwick be okay in the next episode. What RWBY is gonna do in the next episode is a bit more tricky, because we know she just arrived at Beacon. Now she can easily get to the group of fighting students and discover, what's going on, you know, hey, all this is going on, and then like she'll hear, oh, well, Pyrrha and John, they went down, you know, somewhere to find with Ozpin, and maybe she'll go and try to find them, or maybe when Crow arrives, he'll recruit her to come help him with Ozpin. But the other thing is, what about Yang? Yang, she lost an arm, we know that, so she is in dire need of medical attention. She can be dying of blood loss or shock. Now, do I think Yang is actually going to die? No. But the danger is still there. And the question remains, will RWBY even be able to do anything if she sees Yang in that condition? You know, seeing her big sister, the person she's looked up to all these years, pretty much her second mother, dying right in front of her. Do you think she's really going to be able to function properly? Perhaps. Or she may, you know, start taking drastic, you know, steps, drastic measures to try to do something. Just, it's gonna be a real powder keg situation if RWBY sees Yang in that condition and then goes off half-cocked to try to do something. Now, on the realm of Yang losing an arm, now, it isn't really all that big a deal. We've seen people with robotic legs, and we've seen Ironwood, who's half of his body is freaking robotic. So, it probably isn't gonna be much to slap a robot arm on Yang, and then just think about all those cool things that robot arm could do. Maybe it could catch on fire. Maybe, like, she can do, like, a rocket punch thing where it's like the fist comes off, like, from the Phantom Pain, and then punch people. I mean, she could probably use it to her advantage. But, of course, there's gonna be a lot of the psychological aspects that come with losing a limb, the Phantom Pain syndrome that she'll probably feel, and then, I don't think Yang will take the loss of the arm that bad. I mean, it'll probably be a shock to her and it'll take her a while to get over it, but she eventually will. But I think Blake will feel the emotional and mental scars worse, because essentially, she's the one that caused that. Blake is gonna have a real hard time getting through probably in the next volume, where it's probably gonna be a reconstruction volume where the characters have to build themselves back up. Blake is gonna have a hard time, you know, dealing with Yang and visiting Yang, because every time she's gonna look at her, she's going to see that she doesn't have her right arm, and that's her fault. But I think that's, like, it should go into more detail in the, in sort of like the post-volume wrap-up video. And that's going to be awesome. Big plans are kind of being set up for that. So, I hope that you enjoyed. Let's head back to Past Jake for the outro. Hey everybody, once again, end of the review. So, this episode was amazing. I'm gonna go back and watch it right now. But since you just watched this review, why don't you go ahead, like and favorite if you've enjoyed, subscribe if you feel inclined to. If you want, if you have any crackpot theories about RWBY, you should check out my Facebook group, Team Theory. And, you know, put a crackpot theory on there, discuss with other crackpot theorists. Maybe you'll find something cool. Also, if you wish, you can check out my Patreon page if you want to support me monetarily. And special thanks to all my Patreon sponsors, but big, awesome, mega, super special thanks to Duncan Ishler and Grant Allen Hill. You guys have kept with me all this time. That is amazing. I love you for that. And since you've made it to this part of the outro, there's gonna be some thumbnails popping up on screen that show you other videos that I've done. Probably other RWBY reviews, maybe a RWBY funny video, or maybe a RWBY fanfic read. That's right, I'm starting to do those, and man, they're gonna be so much fun. And of course, be sure to leave all those amazing comments down below. And remember to be a good person, tip your waitresses, keep moving forward. I'll see you next time I'm out there in YouTube land. Hang tough, everybody. Yeah-yo!